Hello, Taylor. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yay. Okay. So, first, a lot of people, have imperfect backgrounds. And so I'd like to hear a little bit about your background and then how and why you decided to approach the PhD.
I got a bachelor's in women, gender, and sexuality studies in Spanish in 2019. And then I took a year off to kind of relax and not be in school, and got a marketing job. After that, I applied for counseling psychology PhD programs for the first time, and I didn't get in anywhere. So that led me to do a master's program in counseling. So I'm finishing up my master's program now. And that's why I decided to pursue a PhD. And applying again after not getting in the first round was really scary. And looking back, there were lots of things I would have done differently. So I really wanted to kind of set myself up and have as much support as possible in the process for round two.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm also just, props to you for getting the master's and like being proactive. So what do you, like you said, you were looking back and you're like, oh, I wanted to do things differently. What do you think you didn't like about your first time doing it?
Yeah. So I think part of it was that I didn't have a lot of people in my life who were in the counseling psych space. So looking back, I don't think I knew how to speak the language. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really glad that I got a master's before applying again, because I've sort of been in a very adjacent world for the last couple of years, and that helped a lot. I think I just kind of didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know how much like time and emotional energy I was signing up to give. And I think I just got really overwhelmed and exhausted by that. So sort of did the best I can, but really felt like I was kind of flailing for the first time, like not really sure if I was doing things right.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think that's super normal too, is like, because, right, we all have lives. Like, we don't do this in a vacuum,
right.
You're working, you're finishing school, you have friends, family, like, and then you're putting this thing on top. And yeah, it's not like just submitting a form. Like, it's just not that. I wish it was, but
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
yeah. Okay. So what was the main like, well, there's a couple questions. Do you have anything that you thought made you less than perfect on your application? Because some people it's like, oh, my GPA, or like, was there something that you were
Mm.
particularly worried about?
Yes. Well, I would say I, so the first time around, I did get a couple interviews. And then I didn't get in after doing the interview. So I think I was particularly nervous about the interviewing stage because it felt like that was the stage that where I sort of messed up last time. Um, I think the other thing was my GRE scores are not great. I'm not a great like standardized test taker. So yeah, that was something I was kind of concerned about
Mm.
too. But I think interviewing was probably the biggest thing, just because I knew the interviews the first round didn't go well enough for me to get in, obviously, but I didn't quite know what went wrong.
Mhm.
So I was like, maybe I'm just a bad interviewee, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's so hard because like we don't get feedback.
Hmm.
I hear that a lot from people. They're like, I have no idea. I submitted something or I had an interview and like that it's just like crickets. And that's tough. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, where were you before the Fearless Grad program and then like where are you now? Like how do you think that's different?
I mean, it's very different in that I have achieved a lifelong goal now. And before the program, I was in a state of just feeling really scared. And I think feeling um, just kind of emotional and sensitive about the whole thing. Not sure if I felt like emotionally ready to put myself through this again. Um, so I was lucky that I think I got advertised the Fearless Grad program on Instagram. Um, so that just sort of fell into my lap, and I realized how much I needed a community and people who really knew what they were doing, to help me not second guess myself every step of the way. Um, so yeah, it just comparing the first time when I didn't have that kind of support and the second time, it felt like two very, very different processes. Of course, it was still overwhelming and stressful. But I felt like I had a handle on it. I felt like I had support, that I was a lot more organized, and it didn't totally like ruin those like 6 months of my life
That
as I was
is so,
applying, like it kind of did the first time.
yes, that like, oh, I'm with you. Like when I'm doing
Yeah,
something, I'll be a bear and like who wants to be around me? Like nobody.
right.
But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think like the biggest benefit of doing the program was for you?
I think because there are so many steps in the process, and even like steps that you don't really anticipate or aren't really like thinking about, I think just having the online modules and that kind of organization helped me a lot, helped me figure out like where to even start. I really appreciated that one of the first modules was kind of the goal setting, or like thinking about your values and why you're doing this. And I think that really like created a foundation for me to figure out how to do everything else. So I think the organization of the steps, the order of different things, and yeah, just feeling supported, because it can feel like such an isolating process.
That's so cool. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, for me, it's like the technical and the support. Like everybody needs like the technical know-how, but
Right.
just I could just give you a book, right? And then like, what's that going to get you? But then you need that plus like the support to kind of, yeah, feel good while you're doing it. Makes sense. Let me think. Did you learn other things through this process that were like, that you didn't expect or that were surprising to you? Anything like that?
Hmm. Let's see. Honestly, when I came into the program, of course, I wanted to get into a fully funded PhD program, but in the back of my head, I was also like, I just want to get into a PhD program, period. Um, so I think my standards were maybe a little bit low, and I think um, something that I learned and maybe didn't know I needed was like learning about all of the funding stuff, and learning about what I deserve in terms of that and what I should be looking for. Because honestly, I was just, yeah, like I said, just feeling kind of desperate for it to work out in some way. Um, but not really knowing, yeah, not really knowing what to look for in terms of funding, or yeah, kind of what I deserved in that way.
Awesome. Yeah, it is a little bit like, the internet. It's like, okay, just yeah, go look on the internet, but it's like so much and just trying to understand like you said, like what's normal and what you should look for is yeah, quite important. Do you oh, I have more questions. So could be both spots, but like, do you feel like you change because the application process in and of itself is kind of like a growing experience. I'm curious about that. And I'm also curious about what you're like anticipating for your PhD program. Like if you have an idea on that, you may not, which is also normal.
Yeah. Um, I think I grew, I think it was a really good exercise in putting myself and my long-term goals first, like prioritizing them first over other things. Um, I think during this process, probably most people feel like there's not enough hours in the day to do everything I'm doing. I was in school and working and doing an internship while doing this last semester, and it felt like a lot. So I think I was really forced to step back and be like, this is like my life that we're talking about. This is a long-term goal that's really important to me. So I need to figure out ways to prioritize that. Um, and I think figuring out how to do that was really empowering. And it made me really like, yeah, I just feel grateful that I like invested in myself in that way, I think. Um,
Yeah, you 'cause it feels
yeah,
like, okay, if you figure this out, what are you going to figure out next and next?
right.
you just kind of build that muscle or that skill, which is
Totally.
that.
Yeah. And I think the self-efficacy part too, again, just like feeling really not super confident and kind of still having my feelings hurt from the first time not getting in. So, like feeling like, okay, I was brave enough to try that again. And, you know, I approached it courageously and it happened, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, well, yes. And like, I think we also need to normalize the not getting in the first time.
Yes.
Like it's a thing. I mean, the stats vary by school, but like at the minimum, like 80% of people are not getting in.
Yeah.
Like, that's the minimum. Like on the more high side, it's like 90% or 95%. So like, it's a thing. But yes, appreciate you talking about. I had another client who was like, I didn't get in the first time and I just had to take the whole month to just like process and just feel,
Mhm.
feel the feels. And then I could think about it next, but that's also, yeah, makes sense. Oh, okay. So, okay. Well, you brings to your schools now. So tell me about the application process and like kind of, you know, where you decided to apply, what kind of the outcome was for you and how that worked.
Yeah, so I applied to 10 schools. Most of them were counseling psychology programs, and then a few of them were clinical psychology programs. Um, and I made that decision mainly based on the research that the faculty was doing. I'm really interested in like trans research, so I was just kind of looking for where that was happening across the US. Um, so yeah, did that. I had it just happened and now I'm like, oh, I can't even remember. I think I had 5 interviews, 5 or 6. And then I got 4 acceptances. So yeah, that felt really exciting and special. And I accepted at Columbia in New York.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my God, that's so fun. And like totally life-changing.
Oh yeah.
Like that's so cool. I mean, I don't know where you live now, but living in New York, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, yeah. I live in the Midwest in Missouri right now, so it's gonna be a huge, like, I've never lived outside of the Midwest. It's gonna be a huge and really exciting change for me.
It will be. It will be.
Yeah,
That's like right. Again, technical and the soft sides. When I did my PhD, right, you learn a lot of technical stuff, but like getting in a new environment, meeting new people, like your mind is just gonna go boop, and that's
yeah.
that's really cool too. I like that. Oh, okay. So you talked about like investing in yourself and like what pushed you over the edge in order to do this instead of like, taking a trip or something or, yeah, like, right. Like what kind of made you decide this was the thing for you?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think when I was making the decision of whether or not to like invest in this program specifically, you kind of don't know, there's no way to 100% know what's going to happen and whether or not it's going to be worth it. Um, but I think I just sort of had to sit down and reflect on like um I am important enough and this goal is important enough to invest in, and um doing this will allow me to know, regardless of the outcome, that I did absolutely everything I could to make this happen for myself, and I engaged with all of the supports that I could. And um yeah, so I think it just felt like in order to feel like I did my absolute best this application season, like I'm gonna try this and see what happens.
Yeah, I love that because it's like you're right. There's no guarantee. There can never be. It would be like disingenuous of me to say that because
Right.
of life. But yeah, I love how you were like, I want to know I did my best. And like, I think that mentality really matters because, yeah, you could spend money on something, but if you don't engage, like it still won't work its magic. And so like, yeah, kind of giving it that thing of like, I'm here to get it. I mean, I'm not playing around. Like that's also important.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, so you were very successful this round. I'm curious what do you think maybe helped set you apart? Just, everybody has strengths and, different strengths and things. What do you think was kind of maybe your special sauce?
Well, the first time around, I did not know to reach out to professors beforehand. That was very helpful and helped me feel like I already had some really good connections before the interview process even started. Um, I think I also made more of an effort to engage with my professional community, and made some connections there with like different therapists I'm working with for my internship or things like that. And then the folks that they're connected to, like, I don't know about other fields, but psychology and specifically counseling psychology is a pretty small world. And I think the first time around, I probably didn't feel confident or secure enough in my abilities to like engage with those connections. But yeah, it definitely feels like relationships and connecting with people was the biggest thing.
I agree. I think it's a huge differentiator. And I agree with that feeling of like not wanting to reach out if you feel unconfident. So that's kind of what we do, right? We kind of like set up the foundation, like get you
Mm,
guys knowledge, skills, and then like those conversations just go better than if you were just to be like, hi, like,
right.
So I love that. And like, and what's really cool too, like you said, such a small world is like, even if you didn't end up going to their school, you're gonna see each other.
Right.
You might collaborate on something different. Like that's fun too. Like you just never really know. So
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
do feel like I built so many awesome relationships that like, they're not at Columbia, but it does feel like I have lots more connections now than I ever would have. Yeah.
And you're gonna make a million more once you get there. Um, what else? What would you tell yourself a year ago? Right? Because like stressful, all the things going through the brain. What would you say?
Yeah. Um, I guess um I would say take the risk, maybe. I think it felt like a risk, like financially investing in this program, also investing in like the applications themselves felt like a risk emotionally, like setting yourself up for rejection, a time risk, like the amount of time you put into it, and then if it doesn't work out and it feels like it's a waste. So I think, yeah, I would encourage myself that taking that risk is very much worth it.
I love that. And it's also like it's still hard to do. Like
Yeah,
we know logically, like, hey, staying in this safe bubble gets me nowhere. But like it's so hard. Like I get, like logically knowing something, but then I feel you. I feel you. Okay,
yeah.
cool. Anything else you would say to just others who are starting the process? And you worked with Mackenzie, right? Was she your consultant? And how
Mhm.
was the whole like, application writing process? How did that all go?
Oh yeah, that was super helpful. Yeah, I think one thing that stands out is basically she like went above and beyond for me to help me get a statement of purpose turned around like way sooner than she signed up for basically. So yeah, it just felt like she was really invested in my success and wanted to make sure I felt really good about the materials. And um yeah, it was just great having her perspective and having somebody else with expertise here like put eyes on my stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm glad that she was able to help you in a time crunch too.
Yeah.
Yeah, things pop up for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
cool. So, um, yeah, anything you would say to others embarking on the application process?
Um, yeah, I guess I would normalize the experience of not getting in the first time. I thought I was like such a loser when that happened to me, and like, oh my God, like I'm the only person this has ever happened to. This is so embarrassing. And like now I have met so many people who have not gotten in time one or time two and are like amazing, brilliant people. So I think just like perseverance and um giving yourself some like compassion and not getting wrapped up in the shame of that is important. And yeah, I guess just trusting yourself that you are capable enough of doing this, and that this is worth it for you and your future.
That's so good. Because we all, yeah, I speak from my own experience. Like, I said, I can doubt myself, right? I'm like, I think I
Yeah.
want this, but like, do I really? And like, it's easy to go down that road. And
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Well, and I just also wanted to say that I think having your like instructional videos, it's so weird because like we don't know each other, but I feel like I've had a one-sided like friendship with you for several months because of those videos. Um, but I think having that was really helpful because I think this process can feel so like mystifying and like I don't know, like not a superhuman or warm process. It just feels like I don't know, sort of robotic and cold, and like things feel kind of vague. And
mm,
so having like a human being tell me how to do things and like sort of talk me through the process, I think there was something about that that really humanized the experience and made it feel a lot more like comfortable and safe. So yeah, I would say that's a highlight of the program too.
oh, it's so cool. Because like, I want to like just be with you guys like every day, like all day, but like, I physically can't. And so I love
Right.
that that is helpful. And like I've had a few people kind of express that they're really like those too, which is because like I'm not like a professional movie maker or something. So I'm like, I hope that I do a good job. So
Yeah, you definitely do.
okay. Well, I appreciate you so much. Thank you.